And so becoming specialists gives us an opportunity to become subject matter experts on all things home, and really to focus on a lot of middle market companies. Those are the ones between 10 million and $1 billion. They have a lot of resources, but they don't always have the ability to grow the way the multinationals do. And they don't get the attention that the sexy startups get. They're 1/3 of all business comes out of middle market, so that's a really nice niche for us.
This podcast is brought to you by Penji. Penji is a creative subscription service that gives you access to pre-vetted, agency-trained creatives from all over the world. From graphic design to illustrations to social media management and web development, it's all included for one monthly price. It's time to say goodbye to the hassle of searching for top-notch creative talent. With Penji, you get quality and consistency delivered right to your inbox every day, carefully crafted for you by humans. So meet your new creative team today. Head over to penji.co for more and enter the coupon code located within the podcast show notes.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Fully Managed by Penji podcast, the podcast where we discuss marketing and business tips to help assist you on your business journey. I'm your host, Shannon, Penji's partnership coordinator, and I'm joined here with a very special guest, Renee Miller, founder of the Miller Group. I'm very excited to have you on today. I get very excited to have women on this so much. And not that there's anything wrong with interviewing men, but it's just like it's much more exciting for me just because you don't see a lot of women in the marketing world. I'm happy to see more and more. It's something that makes me really excited, and it's something that marketing is something that I fell into and I actually very much enjoy. So it's really nice to be able to talk to you today.
Thanks, Shannon. That's great to talk to you as well.
Thank you so much. So just to start out, would you just be able to tell us a little bit about you and your work and kind of where you came from, how you got up to this point, all of that?
Sure. So I started the company in 1990, and there were less than 1% of all women in the country owned their own agencies at the time. And in Los Angeles, I was maybe one of a handful. And it came about very, it wasn't one of those decisions I made. I wish I could say I was so directed and I knew exactly what I was doing. I actually was working as I started off as a journalist, and then left journalism, went into marketing, and it was a job at a healthcare company. I was originally in Arizona. I left Arizona. The newspaper got hired in California at a hospital to work in marketing. Stayed there 2.5 years. Left and then went out on my own and built a public relations agency, primarily in the healthcare industry. And I realized how little I liked public relations. So I left that. I'm kind of a serial entrepreneur. I left that, went out and started freelancing. And one thing led to another. I started getting people who called and said, "Can you do this? Can you do that?" And ended up with a few accounts that were looking for a place to go. And at the time, there weren't a lot of boutique agencies catering to clients. It was mostly, the large firms. And so we were able to give them a lot of the people that I brought on to work with me were people who were, had huge presence in big agencies. And so a lot of these smaller accounts were getting incredible service and incredible creative from people who really wanted to work with the Miller Group because we were doing a lot of innovative, interesting breakthrough things, winning a lot of awards, getting a lot of media attention. And it just sort of, I was learning at the seat of my pants. So long story, very long.
No, not long at all. I've had longer, trust me. So it was very concise. So how did you kind of build your group? So like you said that you kind of fell into marketing a little bit. You had a journey that made you to this point, but it wasn't something that was streamlined that you had planned. How did you kind of develop your team earlier on?
So that's a great question. I'll say to you that I'm constantly learning, refining, growing. I spend a lot of time um, taking classes. I'm part of a group called WeBank Women Business Economic Council. It's for a certification for women business owners. I take almost all their classes. I recently finished the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business course, and I was selected to be a part of that. And so it's really um, finding people who really want to support a small agency. And a lot of people that we work with are phenomenal freelancers. We've had people that I work with people. There's a team member who's been part of the Miller Group for 18 years. And he comes out of Harvard. He worked at J. Walter, some of the really big agencies. And he likes that sort of that more smaller boutique. I don't want to say scrappy, but that's kind of, that style. The people that gravitate toward the Miller Group are people who are resourceful, self-starters, ambitious, have a point of, you know, can take a stand on things, feel comfortable working with a small group. We're very purpose-driven. That's another thing. So we do a lot of work with purpose-driven companies. Some of that is nonprofit. A lot of that is corporate. And I'll share with you that we're about 6 weeks out from relaunching our positioning. So we'll be focusing on working with marketers who have products and services focused on the homeowner. So anything from home equity lines of credit, uh, banks and credit unions who offer home equity lines of credit and home loans to first-time home buyers, all the way to things like sustainable paints, bamboo flooring, companies that have offer purpose-driven products and services. And the reason we're moving in this direction is because we realized that was part of my 10,000 my coursework with Goldman Sachs was to come up with a growth plan for the agency. And so becoming specialists gives us an opportunity to become subject matter experts on all things home, and really to focus on a lot of middle market companies. Those are the ones between 10 million and $1 billion. They have a lot of resources, but they don't always have the ability to grow the way the multinationals do, and they don't get the attention that the sexy startups get. But they're one third of all business is comes out of middle market, and so that's a really nice niche for us.
Hmm. I really enjoy that you're kind of niching down a little bit because I do hear that a lot with agencies. Something that comes up actually very often on the podcast because I think that people have different opinions of whether it works or whether it doesn't. So I know that a lot of agencies will not niche down and kind of do a little bit of everything because they get bored from being a specialist in one category, or they find that they're very successful in that specific category because they can perfect it and make sure that they're putting out like their best work. So it's very interesting to hear the different kinds of perspectives.
Well, the interesting thing, Shannon, is that it's such a huge canvas that we can play in. Because when I worked in healthcare, doing, PR in healthcare was very, very, very niche. It was primarily hospitals, physicians, and even today, healthcare is a lot broader. But we've worked with large appliances, small appliances. We've worked with contractors. We've worked in solar. We've worked, so every area have experience, which is great. And there's so many areas of home improvement, home products, home services. It's really exciting because there is such an and in fact, we have to really think, are we gonna be specialists in one specific area? And at this point, we haven't decided that, but, um, there's so much to choose from. It's really, really fun.
So you can, I think that that's a great testament to that. You can kind of niche down, but you can still have a broad enough category that you pick as your niche that you can still be excited every day. Because especially homeowning, there's so many things involved that you can cover under that category. Whereas a lot of people will niche down and maybe their category is much smaller, and maybe that's why people tend to get bored depending on what that is.
Well,
But
and if when you pick it, you're absolutely right. And we're gonna be very selective with the folks that we work with. So, working with marketing directors, CMOs, who really understand and can define what their challenges are and how we can help solve it together. We are looking at collaborative partnerships, and excited to be. My philosophy is give as much as I possibly can, and I can do that because I don't have stockholders breathing down my back or shareholders. So yeah, and we try all kinds of things. As long as the client is comfortable, activations, because it really takes more. There's so many channels today. Years ago, you had, traditional TV, radio, print. I mean, today there's like 28 to 30 different channels, and you have to really understand who your audience is, segment that audience, and then reach them as specifically as you can.
I definitely agree. I like the idea that you won't get bored with your category. I just don't hear that very often because I think that a lot of people don't, they pick something that they're good at, but they don't pick something that can not only continuously bring them business but also keep their staff happy, something that they're able to, something new every day, because I also think that helps a lot of marketers learn and grow. And it's always important to keep growing because the world's changing, and the marketing field is changing. So there's always new things to learn, and to have a category that can be inconsistent and can keep you on your toes is something that's really great.
You're right.
So, could you tell us kind of a secret strategy that you have for obtaining clients? I know that a lot of people want to just say good work, and that's always the hope. Is that but do you have a way that you keep them coming in? Yeah.
It's interesting because it's very challenging, as you've, I'm sure, heard from uh, so many marketers. And what really works well is working on the business. Most of us tend to work in the business, and there's a balancing act. So, spending half of my time working in the business, direct with the clients, and then 50% of my time on the business. And that means being very active on LinkedIn, not just pushing out content, but engaging with people. I look at that as it's like a big, big networking party online. Who are you talking to? What are you saying? Are you adding anything, or are you just liking something? So contributing, looking at the little groups on LinkedIn. I do a lot of networking. I go to probably 2 to 3 events live a week. and then I do a lot online through different organizations. And I actually teach young people. I mentor young people on business development because most of us don't like it. I had to just start learning to like it. And I remember, today there's so many different channels for reaching out. Used to be like years ago, the telephone, pre-internet, it was the telephone and direct mail. And that was it. Like, it's hard for you to fathom, I know, but things like this were just not available. You'd go to an event in person, you'd pick up the phone, you'd write a letter. I mean, it was way more challenging. Today, it's challenging in a different way because there's so many ways to communicate. You have to really, do something different and unexpected. I get probably 200 emails a day from people looking for work. And I would tell you that 199 of them I don't even look at. I just click off on. But when there's one person who does something different, I want to know who that is because I'm interested because they've broken the mold. And I think when you do business development, you have to break the mold. You have to think, what does that person want to hear from me? If I get another one of these, can we jump on a call together? Or are you interested in me helping you get 5 to 6 new leads a day? It's almost like it's overkill and it's can be very debilitating. So when you come across as doing something new, sharing something different, being more human and humane, people respond, and but a lot of that, you have to really be thoughtful. I'm not saying I'm guilty too of connecting with people on LinkedIn, and I do probably I'll send out maybe 100 LinkedIn a day, and maybe 5 or 6 of them connect with me, and I test. If I just say nothing, will they connect? Or if I come off with a very thoughtful message, and sometimes it's just they see who I am and they'll connect, and no matter what I say, they don't wanna connect, so, can't hear you.
Oh, so sorry. I accidentally muted myself. LinkedIn is something that is, I think, very difficult to navigate and learn. It is the having a professional social media, so to speak, is, I would say, something that I've had to learn for the past couple years that I didn't think would be as big as it is now. Um, I thought that the professional world would continue as is. I didn't know that it would involve all of the. It makes sense. Technology is advancing. So many things are getting involved in that. Um, but learning how to get someone's attention without meeting them personally is such an adjustment.
Right, you're right.
Especially if your strong suit is being personal with people. I can attest to the fact that I am so horrible at writing emails. My boss has to coach me constantly about it because I'm a personable person and I write way too much in an email. No one ever wants to read my emails. They're too long and too explanatory because that's how I am as a person. And when people meet me in person, that's refreshing and exciting to them. But on an email, no one wants to read my paragraph.
But you know what? You caught my attention, and that's great. I mean, I get a lot of things that are, and this is another thing that's going on. There's a lot of spam, and there's also a lot of things. We've been hit a couple times by people who say they're one, say they're from a company, for example, and we'd love to talk to you, and then I'll just Google to see who they are before I answer anyone. And sure enough, I'll see, like, there was somebody last week said her name was something. I want to I don't want to quote the name, but so and so from X company. And I said, doesn't feel right. It feels like one of those scams. And I went online, and sure enough, and so we're all at a heightened level. Like, is this for real? Is this a scam? What do they want? And that's hard as well. That's really difficult because everybody's kind of on the lookout. What do you want from me? And so see, we have to be really um, come up with something that's really going to grab their attention and get and fun, playful, different, interesting. And that's tricky. Yeah.
I agree. I definitely agree. I sometimes I find it difficult. I people know that I'm a person when they look at my email, but that means they have to read it. I think that's difficult because I don't want to be gimmicky. I don't want to broadcast someone that I'm not just to get someone's attention. So
Yeah.
I think it does depend on if it's a perfect match as well. But um okay, so question about that. What is your strategy of weeding the wrong ones out, or the um like what's your biggest red flags for incoming prospects or partnerships?
Great. So I'll tell you, if somebody ties up my contact us page, and uses that to sell me something, I don't even look. I just like this. So I would say to people, if you're mining for business, don't tie up somebody's contact page. That's their sales channel. And then I see, like, just is there? I say, we don't have a lot of category experience, or that sounds. It's if it sounds too good to be true, look first, and before you and then I really look at what's coming in. If I get a phone call, we try to vet people before we have a meeting, because there's a lot of people who are looking for stuff, like, we just need somebody to do a website. How much does that cost? So immediately I know by their question that it's probably not a good fit for us. Whereas somebody else might come in and say, we have a challenge, and we need help solving it. And we have X budget, and we have a marketing plan in place. And I've been at this company for 5 years or 7 years or what. There's kind of hints. The red flags are, I just started this job and I'm not sure I'm going to be able to hire someone, but I'm kind of looking around to see, or how much does it cost? I want to run some ads online. How much is, when they ask the question, how much does it cost? It's usually not a great fit. There's all kinds of, ways to kind of suss out whether somebody's legit or not. And, if they were referred by someone, that's always a good sign.
Yeah.
So, and so we ask a lot of questions, and sometimes people answer. If we say, what's your budget? I don't have a budget. That's also kind of a red flag. How, and you tell me, because no matter what, it's usually someone shopping for lower price, and versus somebody shopping for the right fit, somebody shopping for the right agency. I hope that makes sense.
No, that
And
makes
it just,
perfect
yeah,
sense.
yeah,
Yeah, I actually, some trouble that we sometimes have with the podcast is that you said the comment about being too good to be true. A lot of people are like, a free opportunity to come on a podcast sounds really weird, because I assume they get a lot of requests for paid podcasts, which is not something we do, because we want to be able to make this knowledge free for our audience, which I understand why a lot of people don't want to do that. I understand that, putting something behind a paywall is, to make money. I get it. But that's not what we want to do. And I think a lot of people think that that's crazy. But
yeah. No, and I do a lot of these, but it's also deciding, like, is it because then I'll somebody say, we'd love to have you on our podcast and this and that, and then at the end they say, and the charge to you is, and it's like, that's great, but I'm not interested. I say, I get paid for my time, not to I'm not paying you to be on your podcast, so, yeah, those are the interesting things as well, so, yeah. Yeah, there's lost kinds everybody's got something they need to make a living, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, but we just think that this is a way for us to make friends and meet people. Whether something comes out of that is great, but also we always get something out of it by just getting knowledge from you and other people that we have on the podcast, and that's for our audience. So they always get something out of it, and that's the important part for us. But I think a lot of people aren't as transparent with things like that, and I think that's a difficulty in the agency world in general. But I think transparency is number one for an agency, not only with how they conduct their work with people they interact with, but especially their clients.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree 100%.
So, we kind of talked about your strategy for obtaining clients. How do you kind of communicate with them throughout the process to kind of ensure that they're happy, that everything's going well, and that at the end result, you know that you don't have to worry about anything at that point?
That's a great question too. So, first of all, we always start with a briefing session, and once we agree that we want to work together, we always put together an SOW, scope of work, make sure the client signs off on that. We provide a calendar, deadlines, weekly meetings on Zoom, and communicate if sometimes on Slack, sometimes email, sometimes texting, I mean, phone calls, just to really, and also really important to get a KPI. Like, what do you want to get out of this? If this works, because a lot of clients, especially in the nonprofit world, don't always have that set in mind. More visitors to a museum is not a KPI. Like, but a specific KPI would be 20% more diverse visitors from these zip code areas. So then we know, okay, we have to target with our media these specific areas, and we have to target, a diverse audience, and they have to be younger. So really, really making sure that the KPI is clear from day one, and then again, then there's the style and expectations, and it depends. Like keeping clients on track so that they don't go ask for things that are out of scope. Keep this is what we agreed to. This is where we're moving. Because it's really easy to say, "Oh, can you do this? How about that? How about that?" Well, let's look at that after we finish what's in scope. We can always come back later and address those things. So just really keeping things moving in the direction that we agreed to move in. And I know a lot of times as agency heads, especially as women, we want to, can you guys help us with this other thing or that thing? And, if it's out of scope and it's really out of scope, then we have to say there's an additional cost for that. So
That's a
we
good
like,
boundary.
yeah, we like to work with clients on an ongoing basis. We generally tend to like, rather than project work, agency retainers and, stressing the deliverables. So those are the ideal clients, very collaborative, and then finding ways to be creative with the budgets that we have and make sure that we're getting the results they're looking for.
I like that you said the part about the clear APIs or KPIs. My bad. Because I think that having a clear goal is really important with a client, because they can give you something general and you can achieve that on paper, but they may not be as happy as you want them to be. And that, yes, that's somewhat their fault because they weren't clear and communicating what they wanted. But I think that getting them to do that ensures that you can reach your goal effectively and know exactly what's expected of you,
Right.
which I think a lot of people like a lot of agencies will take people on because they need the money or it looks like it might be a good fit, but then communication wise, something like that might not be clear. And then at the end, they think that they did a great job with what they set out to do, but then the client isn't as happy as they could be. And that's at a detriment to them.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's got the client in their mind has to be really clear on what their expectations are, and some things marketing and advertising and branding can't solve. Operationally, internally, there are things that we just can't solve. If a retailer has a store in a challenging area, all the money in the world for advertising isn't going to help if it's tough to find or people don't know it's there. So there's a lot of challenges that go beyond marketing and advertising.
Yeah, I actually think about that a lot anytime I see a business that's in a tight spot, like it's right off the highway, or like just in an I'm like, oof, that's not great. And it has to be the best business in the world, maybe, and maybe people will make a really scary U-turn. Well, I think that might be all the time we have today. I apologize for cutting anything short, but this was so fantastic. Sorry.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I really got to learn a lot of new things today. That's always my favorite part.
That's great.
So I really appreciate that. And thank you so much for coming on with me today again.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
And also thank you everyone for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to hear more stories like this from professionals like Renee and get to learn more like I do every time I get to do this podcast. Thank you so much.
You've been listening to Fully Managed, brought to you by Penji. Check out the show notes to learn more about today's guest, and to learn more about Penji, the human-first creative subscription service, head over to penji.co. And by the way, if you're still listening, it would mean the absolute world to us if you were to share this podcast with a friend and, of course, subscribe.